Let's see. Okay, it looks like YouTube's online. Anyone on YouTube, let me know if you can hear me and see me all right. Okay, fantastic. It looks like everything's working. So let's get started. I have a lot of content to cover and we only have 45 minutes. So thank you all for joining. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to speak to such an awesome crowd. And yeah, I mean, it's difficult times right now, a lot of fear going around. I wanted to just start by saying that I'm obviously not a medical practitioner. I've written a few books on health and I'm a health researcher. I've been into this field for the last 15 years or so. But obviously over that time I've learned a lot about health and wellness, and particularly about immunity and how to keep yourself safe and strong in an ever-changing world. So I'm going to be sharing my top tips for keeping your immune system strong today. And you know, I'm not going to be punting products necessarily, but I'm going to be talking about superfoods because I love superfoods. I've been using them forever. And the reason that I started our company Soaring Free Superfoods is so that I could get this stuff available to people worldwide. I thought I would start with a poem that I got on WhatsApp recently. I'm sure many of you have seen it and read it already, but I thought it was a great place for us to start, just to start shifting the perspective a little bit away from fear and more towards integrated presence. So I'll read it quickly. Lockdown. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there is isolation. Yes, there is panic buying. Yes, there is sickness. Yes, there is even death. But they say that in Wuhan, after so many years of noise, you can hear the birds again. They say that after just a few weeks of quiet, the sky is no longer thick with fumes, but blue and grey and clear. They say that in the streets of Assisi, people are singing to each other across the empty squares, keeping their windows open so that those who are alone may hear the sounds of family around them. They say that a hotel in the west of Ireland is offering free meals and delivery to the housebound. Today, a young woman I know is busy spreading flyers with her number through the neighborhood so that the elders may have someone to call on. Today, churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples are preparing to welcome the shelter the homeless, the sick, the weary. All over the world, people are slowing down and reflecting. All over the world, people are looking at their neighbors in a new way. All over the world, people are waking up to a new reality, to how big we really are, to how little control we really have, to what really matters, to love. So we pray and we remember that, yes, there is fear, but there does not have to be hate. Yes, there is isolation, but there does not have to be loneliness. Yes, there is panic buying, but there does not have to be meanness. Yes, there is sickness, but there does not have to be disease of the soul. Yes, there is even death, but there can always be a rebirth of love. Wake to the choices you make as to how to live now. Today, breathe. Listen behind the factory noises of your panic. The birds are singing again, the sky is clearing, spring is coming, and we are always encompassed by love. Open the window of your soul, and though you may not be able to touch across the empty square, sing. So I really love that one. I just read it quite a few times. You know, what I've seen so far over the last few weeks, especially, but also a few months of this outbreak, is just the massive amount of fear it's generated. And, you know, I don't think mainstream media is helping, whipping up a fear storm. But part of that fear is also just getting a bit of a handle on perspective. I think a lot of people are terrified that this crazy disease is running around and, you know, they have no control and they could catch it and they could die from it. So I just wanted to go through a few things, particularly looking at relative risk versus absolute risk, because quite often in the media, risk is a very one-sided perspective. So I'm going to read a little section that was written a few days ago by an American pediatrician who specializes in infectious diseases, immunology, and virology in the States, Dr. Paul Offit. He says, although people are more likely to die from COVID-19 than from influenza, they are far more likely to catch influenza. Therefore, they are far more likely to die from influenza. So that's the difference between absolute risk and relative risk. According to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, as of March 7th, 2020, 36 million to 51 million people have suffered from flu. 370,000 to 670,000 have been hospitalized, and 22,000 to 55,000 have died from the disease. To put these numbers into perspective, let's look at a country that's dealt with COVID-19. So China, where it originated, has reported roughly 3,000 deaths. The population of China is about 1.4 billion, 3 times greater than America. If America suffered an equivalent proportion of deaths, then 1,000 Americans will die from COVID-19, which is 1/20th to 1/50th the number who have died from influenza. So, just looking at those numbers, the risk is actually a lot lower than just getting flu. And I have been running workshops on health and wellness for many years. My Elements of Health course, which I run all over the country, started looking at the nature of disease and how disease affects us. And I'm very much one of providing solutions to people and allowing people to recognize that they actually have power within them to make a change. And one of the theories around disease that I think did a great job in removing people's responsibility for their own health is the germ theory, which basically says there's bugs and germs everywhere. You get them, you get sick, you need some kind of intervention to heal from that. Now, at the same time the germ theory was being put out there, the terrain theory was also being put out there. Terrain theory says that you live in a world, you have many inputs from your world, your food, your environment, and that is as, if not more important than whether or not they're microbes. So diseases are multivectorial. So what that means is that there are many different inputs related to disease, not just one thing. And that includes one germ. So the idea that germ A equals disease B is totally overly simplistic. It basically removes your power to influence your own outcomes. So since the early 2000s, the germ theory has pretty much been shelved because of the discovery of the microbiome. So the microbiome is a bacterial layer that surrounds your body internally in your digestive system, and it has a massive input on over your overall health. And more recently, the virome was discovered. So basically finding out that yes, there's bacteria, but there's also viruses that are inside your body and that have functions to play, and this creates the holobiome. So, considering the bacterial and virus inputs in our bodies, about 99% of the human genome is actually made up of virus and bacteria. And I read an amazing article recently on this on a website called greenmedinfo.com. I've been using this website for years. Amazing information on nutrients and particularly on the current state of scientific research on nutrients and how they can benefit us. So I'll read the section to you quick. The remarkably recent discovery of the host-dependent nature of the influenza virus's virion composition is really just the tip of an intellectual iceberg that has yet to fully emerge into the light of day, but is already sinking ships. Paradigm shifts, if you will. One such paradigm is that germs are enemy combatants and that viruses serve no fundamental role in our health and should be eradicated from the earth with drugs and vaccines if possible. This belief, however, is untenable. With the discovery of the indispensable role of the microbiome and the subpopulation of viruses within it, the virome, we have entered into an entirely new ecologically based view of the body and its environs that are fundamentally inseparable. So that was written by Saya G, the founder of Green Med Info, and obviously the article goes into great detail, there's amazing videos, so you guys can do your own research on that. Another thing I recently discovered is a study article which talks of the virosphere. So apparently every day there are about 800 million viruses cascading onto every square meter of Earth. I'll read a little excerpt from the study. Whatever the case, viruses are the most abundant entities on the planet by far. While Dr. Suttle's team found hundreds of millions of viruses in a square meter, they counted tens of millions of bacteria in the same space. Mostly thought of as infectious agents, viruses are much more than that. It's hard to overstate the central role that viruses play in the world. They're essential to everything from our immune system to our gut microbiome, to the ecosystems on land and sea, to climate regulation and evolution of all species. Viruses contain a vast, diverse array of unknown genes and spread themselves to other species. So again, just trying to diffuse some of the fear around viruses, particularly that they're this thing that's out to get you, that there's this war that needs to be fought against something, getting out of the headspace of having to fight to be alive and to be healthy and well. Also that there's lots of strange coincidences and many articles going around the internet around COVID and its origins and a whole bunch of stuff on it. I'm not saying I in any way know what is going on with it, but there is lots of great research out there, so certainly do your own homework on it. What I am saying is that even official statistics are saying that for most people this virus is going to be like mild flu. And if you're elderly or you're already immune impaired, then you're at most risk. But you're also at most risk from the flu and a host of other things. So if you are a high-risk person, you really need to do the most work to get yourself well again. So the reason I've had this rant on viruses, again, just to let you recognize that you have control over your health. You can get out of the fear and get into self-empowerment. Now, one of the people I have listened to for years is Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he is very clear that fear is the mind killer. We need to get out of fear. Fear has a major impact on our health and wellness. So I'll read you one of my favorite quotes from him. Love and fear are both energies, but one enhances life and the other cancels life. When we are in love, we become more healthy, we glow and have far more energy. For unbeknown to us, our bodies release certain neurochemicals into our bloodstream that enhances the growth and the vitality of the system, which is completely the opposite when you experience fear, because the chemicals released by the brain in fear shut down the system, and you create a wall around you, and thus you become disconnected from something greater. So I also love Dr. Joe Dispenza's perspective. You can find a video that he's done on YouTube on this. He's basically found, and they did studies, blood tests on people, that you can increase your immune response by 50% if you do 10 minutes a day, 3 times a day of visualization, and visualization of love, of gratitude, of just feeling good. That has a massive, massive effect on your immune system. So before I even get into all the herbs, there's a lot you can do by just controlling your own state of mind and your own fear response. So my fundamental perspective on health and wellness that I've been teaching for many years is called elements of health, that there are elements we need to be fundamentally well, and if we address those elements, our bodies are in harmony with our environment. There's a homeostasis. So you might get sick, of course. I have flu every now and again, but I recover quickly, and when I'm well, I'm fantastically well. So I'm just going to run through my top ideas around the elements of health. So when you talk about fire as an element, that's the element of movement. For a healthy immune system, you need to move your body. Your lymph system is your body's detoxification system. If you're not moving, you're basically sitting in your own waste. That's going to damage your entire body, particularly your immune system. So you've got to do cardio exercise, and you've also got to do strength training, because strength training builds bone density, which is going to make you live longer. So making sure you maintain an exercise routine is essential to your health. Drinking clean, high-quality water. Clean water, essential. A lot of other chemicals get put into water these days in our water supply, so make sure you have a water filter while using spring water. Spring water is ideal because it's still living, it hasn't been tampered with. It'll hydrate you better than anything else, and your immune system is essentially needing water to work effectively. Your whole body requires water, so making sure you drink enough is essential. And especially if you're sick, staying hydrated is key. Breathing, powerful thing. Making sure you're breathing deeply and breathing clean air. So if you can go outside your house, try and get into nature, get into forests where you can breathe clean, deep air. And then food is the other pillar of the elements. So with food, there are 3 things that I recommend when considering your food and its impact on your health and your immune system. Make sure you're eating nutrient-dense food. So nutrient density is really a measure of macronutrients and also micronutrients. Micronutrients includes things like vitamins and minerals, amino acids, phytonutrients. There's a whole host of different things. So you want to make sure that you're consuming foods that are nutrient dense. So how do you know? if the food's nutrient dense? Well, if you grow it yourself in great quality soil, the food's going to be amazing. But most of us don't grow enough of our food. We buy it from shops. So you want to make sure that the food is ideally certified organic or locally grown by local farmers from farmers markets. Conventionally grown food is generally sprayed heavily with lots of poisons and toxins and is nutrient dense because it's grown in depleted soils. So that kind of food is going to reduce your vitality consistently over time, and that impacts your immune system. Clean food is essential because, as I've mentioned, spraying poisons on your food and eating it is definitely not going to serve your health. And then that also includes things like colorants and preservatives and artificial additives and sugars and that kind of stuff. And then trying to make sure that your food is undamaged. So what I mean by this is if you're putting it in a microwave oven and nuking it, or if you're putting it in an oven at 280 degrees Celsius, you're causing a lot of damage to the nutrients that your body needs to absorb. So lower temperature cooking is ideal here. So those are the elements of health. There are other things you can do that are powerfully supportive. Sleep is one of the most essential and often overlooked keys to immune system health. So making sure you get enough sleep, and that's going to be different from person to person. When you sleep, also make sure that you're in a well-ventilated room. If you're not ventilated, you're breathing in all your own carbon dioxide, and that's not going to make you feel great in the morning. So make sure you've got a breeze on you, ideally. Also, don't sleep in a hot room. A hot room also negatively impacts your immune system. Cool is better. Also make sure that you don't have any lights on in your room. If you sleep with lights on, even LED lights, they can affect the depth of your sleep, and so you have less quality sleep. Other things you can do, stress management is essential. Maintaining a balanced perspective during these times. With stress management, wow, there's so much you could do. Basically consider anything that makes you feel great in your life, whether that's music, whether that's dance, whether that's prayer, meditation, laughter, embracing things more often that make you feel good, that keep you in a state of feeling good. Essential. Breath, as I mentioned, powerful. Some of you may have heard of Wim Hof. Wim Hof has done some incredible research on how the body can actually deal with stresses, particularly immune stresses. So getting into breathing techniques, getting into ice bathing, getting in the cold, that's essential. Which brings you on to nature immersion. Humans are nature, but we've been disconnected from nature by living in boxes, driving in boxes, working on boxes all day long. So get out of the box. Get outside, as long as you're not quarantined, or get into your garden if you are, and make sure that you're spending some time in nature. We're lucky in South Africa. It's summertime here, so generally during summer there's less cold and flu. So I expect that our coronavirus numbers will be much lower than winter countries because of this. One of the reasons, obviously, your immune system's stronger in summer is that you get exposed to the sun more, and the sun is stronger, so you get higher levels of vitamin D in your system. So make sure that you're getting out in the sun as much as you can. Then I would also recommend relationship support. The people in your community are there to support you, your family, your loved ones. Spend time with them if you can. If you can't see them physically, then speak to them often. Basically, just get support from the people in your environment. I think that so often we just kind of get on with stuff and don't ask for the support and don't expect support. But everyone loves to support people to feel better. So ask for the support and offer the support. If you see someone's needing assistance in any way, shape or form, just give them a helping hand. I think this whole situation is a great reminder that we really can deeply connect to people and remind ourselves that we are here to support and be supported. And then the last one there is limit your exposure to electrosmog. There are a number of dozens actually of scientific studies now that show that electrosmog is a negative on our health and our vitality. So making sure that you reduce your exposure to Wi-Fi and to cell phone radiation is an essential one. Particularly if you've got your phone on at night time, turn your phone off while you sleep, and just limit your exposure to that is a great way of keeping yourself healthy. Now the next section I want to go into is what I call potent plant support. So I've been using and recommended people use things like superfoods and traditional herbs for a long time. They are powerful. There's much research that shows why they're so effective, and there are particular plants and herbs that are more potent than others, which is why they call them potent plants. They are basically powerful healing adaptogenic herbs that traditional healing systems such as Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and Amazonian herbalism and African herbalism have been using for thousands of years for their effectiveness. We've basically evolved as a hominid species with these plants. You know, this is beyond even nutritional support. We're now looking at deep restorative healing effects of plants. They're more subtle than pharmaceuticals, but they're more integrated into your body. They support the whole system rather than just altering a limited system. And here we're looking at addressing some of the causes of disease rather than just dealing with the symptoms, which is what most of these old healing systems are looking at. Again, I'll mention greenmedinfo.com again. They have a list of hundreds and hundreds of herbs and all the scientifically referenced studies related to them, showing you how powerful they are on various things. So definitely check that out. One of my favorites, and has been my favorite for many, many years, is reishi mushroom. Medicinal mushrooms are incredible at boosting the immune system. It might be the most powerful immune modulating thing you can find. So reishi is also an anti-stress herb. So again, supporting you in a time of stress. So the way I'd use reishi is either in capsule form, or if you can get reishi powder, make a tea with it. I have a tea that's in a teapot that sits on my stove, and every morning I heat it up and I use that tea over and over again. I've got a whole bunch of different mushrooms that I pick from my own farm, including reishi, in that teapot. There are different blends of different mushrooms, like African forest medicals is a great mushroom blend that you can use that's local. But basically just try and get reishi mushroom into your diet on a consistent basis. Even 2-3 times a day is great, particularly for preventative measures. The next mushroom is chaga mushroom. This is often called the king of the medicinal mushrooms. Very powerful immune system support, and also happens to be the mushroom with the highest anti-tumor cancer fighting elements of any herb. So I would add the chaga and the reishi, or at least that's what I do every morning, to my tea. Another one which I really love and also have been using for many, many years is echinacea. Often overlooked, but there's profound research on echinacea. I mean, I just pulled up a research study today that just showed how it's a powerful immunomodulator and non-specific. So it basically means that it promotes the overall immune system functioning, including things like NK cells and cytokines and a whole bunch of stuff that it does. So get yourself echinacea. You can again get echinacea as a whole, as sliced roots, or as a tincture, echinophores, for example. That's something you can also use, you know, as a tincture 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. 10 drops in a glass of water, drink it. It doesn't taste bad. Just maintenance. What else we got? Ashwagandha, powerful adaptogenic mushroom, also a strong rejuvenative tonic, and very, very good for your nervous system. So again, keeping those nerves down in the time of stress and helping support your immune system. Camu Camu is probably my go-to for vitamin C. Vitamin C has been shown to help with fighting colds and flus for many years, since Linus Pauling's research. So definitely would recommend vitamin C. I'm always more of a fan of vitamin C from plants versus isolates. Not that the isolates don't work. You know, you can mega dose on vitamin C that you get in a health food store. I've just found that plant, it's more absorbable and more effective. The other amazing thing about Camu is it's one of the most powerful antidepressant foods known because of its high GABA concentration. So it's dual purpose here, making you feel good and at the same time providing the vitamin C. Potent plants, other things, green drinks. I would highly recommend any green drinks you can get into. Green vegetables are a foundation for immune system support. So things like wheatgrass, barley grass, moringa, spirulina, chlorella, green powders of any kind. Basically just add them in. I have a green drink every single morning, and I've done this for a very long time. So definitely get hold of that. According to the 2011 study on spirulina specifically, it has the ability to modulate immune function and exhibits anti-inflammatory properties. So spirulina specifically is very good at allowing your body and your immune system to be strong. Hemp, interestingly enough, came up for me in my research. Hemp seeds contain high levels of protein, but they have a specific kind of protein called globulin edistin. What has been found is that edistin protein is very similar to the type of protein your immunoglobulins need, globulin edistin immunoglobulins. So consuming hemp seed, shell hemp seed powder is a very powerful way to get precursor nutrients to your immune systems so they can produce enough antibodies. So I definitely include that in. Cacao also came up in my research, surprisingly. Obviously, it's a feel-good food, so any feel-good foods you can get in are fantastic. But I'd certainly also recommend it for microbe health. It's apparently amazing at feeding your microbes. There's a study done in 2014 showing that good bacteria like bifidobacterium feast on it. And besides all the polyphenic acid and antioxidants, it's an overall positive immune system food. So one of the other sides of, I mean, there's lots of other foods you can consume on a daily basis. I mean, some of the things that I use, I have huge lemon trees, so I pick lemons and I have lemon juice every morning. That's a fantastically simple way of getting lots of vitamin C in it. MSM as a supplement, I'm going to get to supplements a little bit later. MSM increases the bioavailability of vitamin C by up to 10 times. So when you're using your vitamin C, use MSM at the same time. And it's also a very inexpensive supplement. Emotional and mental support, there are some potent plants that are especially good for this. Locally, we have things like Scaletium, which is a fantastic mood elevator. Again, if you can keep your mood high and you can keep yourself out of fear, half the work is done for you. You know, the herbal and the nutritional support, that's great, but really the name of the game here is to make sure that you're telling a different story and you can keep yourself in a positive state. So some of the other things that I've used profoundly effectively to maintain a high mood, excuse the pun, is cannabis. Obviously cannabis has gotten a lot of press recently. Besides being able to dissolve cancer cells, allowing pain relief, preventing Alzheimer's disease, and balancing blood sugar levels, cannabis is also neuroprotective and particularly good for anxiety disorders. Now, the part of cannabis that does this are cannabinoids. There are hundreds of different cannabinoids. The one that you're probably most familiar with is CBD. It's had quite a lot of press, and CBD is particularly good for anxiety. So again, anxiety, this is fear of what's coming, of the unknown. So making sure you can manage anxiety is essential at this time. So I highly recommend using CBD. And again, CBD can be found in drops, in chocolates, in pretty much anything. Coffee these days, pizzas, so use CBD. I'd also recommend raw cannabis, now that it's legal in South Africa to grow your own cannabis plants at home. The main way I use cannabis as a plant is I make green vegetable juice out of it and I make pesto out of it. Now when you consume cannabis raw, the cannabinoids are not decarboxylated. So what that means is that even if there is THC, which is the psychoactive cannabinoid, it's not going to make you high when it's raw. What it is going to do when it's raw, because these raw cannabinoids are bound to an acid molecule that make them non-psychoactive, it's basically going to be powerfully immune modulating. That's what it's doing, anti-inflammatory and immune modulating. So when I feel like a snack in the day, I literally will just take something like a cracker, a flaxseed cracker, or even a rice cake, and I put a ton of hemp cannabis leaf pesto on it, which I make from leaves from my own garden, and I'll eat that. And it's like pesto like this, cracker like this. So that's a great way of getting in powerful, consistent nutritional support too. Another herb that I highly recommend, which very few people know about, but it's exploding in America, is a herb called kratom. And this is a tropical tree with it's a close relative to coffee. It grows in Southeast Asia and is used there in the same way that coca leaf is used in the Andes for energy and to help people work and combat fatigue and increase productivity. Now what's interesting about it is a large survey was done in the States. There's been no studies yet on it, but 8,000 people were surveyed. Out of those people, 79% reported increased energy, 74% reported less anxiety, and 75% reported less depressed mood. So, you know, these are powerful numbers. So if you want to improve your state and your mood and reduce anxiety, that's definitely something I would look at. Other supplements and herbs that are great that I'd recommend, probiotics. I cannot recommend probiotics enough. Remember, your microbiome is one of the key things in your immune system health. Your microbiome and the bacteria in your gut, they feed on foods, on fiber. So you want to be eating fiber and you want to be taking probiotics. And there are many different forms of probiotics. There's liquids, there's capsules. Just get something that works for you. What I would look at including besides supplements is also fermented food. Fermented food is incredible at improving your bacterial levels. So things like kimchi and sauerkraut and even kefirs of various kinds. Maintain a bacterial-rich food in your diet every single day. You know, there's always sauerkraut in the house. I make my own sauerkraut, so just eat that kind of food every single day. Other supplements that are great for immune system support. Zinc has quite a lot of research on it, so taking some kind of zinc supplements. I quite like colloidal supplements because they're just in liquid form and easier to absorb often than the elemental ones, which are very poorly absorbed. If you can't find colloidal, then you can also use amino acid chelates. Those are bound to an amino acid, so they're also more easily absorbed. So it's AAC is what we would normally call, like zinc AAC, amino acid chelate. Silver is an amazing antiviral compound, mineral. Colloidal silver has been around again for hundreds of years. Use colloidal silver if you want to keep your hand sanitized. You can spray colloidal silver on your hand. It's incredibly effective. There are a few vitamins. I've mentioned vitamin C. Vitamin C, again, can be found in many different forms. Amino acid chelates are better absorbed, and certainly buffered vitamin C is also less harsh in your stomach. Vitamin A, essential for your immune system too, so getting a vitamin A supplement. And then vitamin D3. D3 has got major research on it, and you can really dose D3 high. If you get a liquid D3, you can go 5, 6, 7 times the recommended dose, particularly in short bursts. I mean, you can't do that for prolonged period of time, but for a few weeks, no problem. But again, vitamin D3 is also free if you get outside in the sun for good exposure, and it's still summertime in South Africa, so make sure you do that. Something that I've used amazingly effectively over the last few years is essential oils. Essential oils, if you just Google essential oils, antiviral, you'll find lists, amazing research on essential oils. Things like oregano oil, tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, and there are even blends of oils specifically for improving your immune function and for their antiviral capacity. So the way that I use it is using a diffuser. So instead of burning the oils, which damages them, a diffuser just vibrates it and releases a water vapor, which is not heated, so you don't damage the oils. And they're pretty inexpensive diffusers, and you can just keep the diffuser going for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours while you're in the room that you're working in or the house that you're staying in. The air is going to fill up with this amazing essential oil smell, but it's doing powerful work cleansing your environment and your house. If you feel that you already have some sort of infection or your immune system is feeling a bit depressed, then I would recommend breathing the vapor straight into your nose. You know, in ancient India they have the neti pot, which is a salt solution which you clean your nasal passages out, because making sure that your nose is clear and your passages are clear is also a great way to stay well. But you can literally breathe in the vapor that comes off of one of those devices. It's quite a head rush, but amazing. I love essential oils that are certified organic, obviously, so just look out for those. But there are a few decent brands out there. Okay, so that's it on supplementation. For me, the overriding thing that I want to bring across here is that, you know, avoiding fear and panic is the primary way you stay healthy and safe. Focusing on improving your overall health, using healthy lifestyle as your primary defense system. You know, it's amazing. I mean, I've been talking about making yourself well for decades, and now suddenly there's a virus and everyone's going, how do I get well? So making sure that your day-to-day lifestyle is supporting your health is the most powerful insurance you have, health insurance you can get, because it's much harder to recover from a disease than it is to prevent a disease, always. You know, when people eventually get sick or their immune system is depressed enough to get a major viral infection, it's because they've been abusing themselves for sometimes decades, you know, with all sorts of stuff. So making sure that you're daily looking at what you're eating, what you're drinking, what your exercise routine is, what your exposure level is to chemicals and to poisons, and what your exposure level is to the poison of thinking. You know, what are you thinking the whole time? You know, one of the most ridiculous things is this addiction to problems and talking about problems. All the time, and we have to break that addiction. If you can break the addiction talking about problems, because the more you talk about problems, the more you're running the problem through your circuitry in your brain, the more you're polarizing those more of those same problems to you. It's a profound technique, but it's so difficult because our media and much of our conditioning through childhood is problem focused. And it's one thing recognizing a problem and taking clear and decisive action to deal with it. It's another thing to just talk about it over and over again so that it's running through your circuitry and polarizing more and more problems to you. Break the habit. Talk about your joys rather. This is an amazing time that we can focus on our joys, focus on what brings us joy, focus on what brings us love. You know, look at that. And for me, you know, the most powerful thing to do in a time of fear is to be grateful. If you're in fear, the quickest way out of it is through gratitude. Again, Dr. Bruce Lipton's done amazing work on this. And I recommend doing a gratitude process every morning, every evening. Just write down a list of 10 things you're grateful for. Keep that list with you. If you find yourself falling into fear, you find yourself falling into a story that's not supporting you to be healthy and well, look at your list. What am I grateful for? And you'll quickly see, wow, perspective. You know, I have so much amazing stuff in my life. And, you know, that gratitude is going to improve your immune system profoundly. You know, relationships are massively important, and they don't last because of the good times. They last because of the challenging times were handled with love and care. So in times like this, when it's challenging, you know, the amount of love and care you can put into yourself and into other people around you is really what's going to carry you through. So for me, Soaring Free is all about, you know, our mission is to inspire as well as enable you to live your healthiest life. So I hope that what I've given you guys is going to help you practically implement some of that stuff. I mean, our staff, we've given them a potent support pack so that they can start including some of this stuff regularly. You know, it's our way of helping out, and obviously the more you can share this kind of information with your community and your families and your loved ones, get them out of fear, get them into using powerful nutritional support, you know, that's really how you make the change in the world. Starting your days getting on purpose is also essential, you know, particularly in hectic times, because stuff's going to come up in your day. There's going to be reports, and there's going to be news, and there's going to be people with their fear. So making sure that when you start the day, you get on purpose, you breathe, you relax, you focus on what you want, you focus on the state of mind you'd like to be in for the day. That's going to set you up and do a lot for you throughout the day. Basically, when we remind each other that we are safe and supported and we share love and gratitude, we will thrive. And that really is the key. So I managed to knock this out within 40 minutes. Fantastic. I know that we've got further support stuff coming for you, some ebook stuff and some other stuff. I'd love to be able to take some questions. I'm not too sure how we can do that. I can see questions on Instagram Live, but oh, there's some on YouTube too. So we got like 5 minutes left. So the next 3 or 4 questions, shoot, let's see what you guys have to ask. Nothing. I'll read back up. Maybe there was something. Okay, fantastic. Well, great. That was brilliant. I mean, I think we'll do more of this. Maybe looking at doing other kind of workshops and talks in this way. This year I'm also going to be doing a lot of work in Cape Town and in Johannesburg, so check our website and see when I'll be up there to share some of this information. But thank you for joining us. Have a most fantastic evening. with your loved ones, and yeah, just be well, be well, be well. We have written an ebook which we're going to send through the WhatsApp groups, just with all this information I've spoken about and some tips. There'll be details on how to get that ebook if you watch those groups. Fantastic. Have a good evening and good night.